Hi, in this video I want to look at how the fool characters in the plays Twelfth Night and King Lear act as Shakespeare's personal spokesman. For those who are familiar with Shakespeare's plays, you might have noticed how ambivalent Shakespeare can be as a playwright. However, his fool characters do not exhibit this ambivalence, and this video will explore as to why and how. Before I get into it, let's briefly cover the background of a fool back in Shakespeare's time. The fool, also known as a jester or a clown, was an entertainer employed by the monarchs in the medieval and Renaissance eras. The fools would also reside with the monarchs so as to provide entertainment on command. Such entertainment would include jokes, songs, dances, storytelling, and many more. Now that we have covered that, one could see how Shakespeare had considered the lifestyle and the context of these fools when incorporating this character into his plays. He had understood that there was potential with the fool characters beyond comic relief. And as mentioned earlier, these fools are people who spend more time with the nobles than any other lower working class, which meant that they most likely were able to gain insight into the lives and mindsets of the nobles. These factors make the fool the perfect third person to observe other characters with an objective stance. After all, as fools they have nothing to lose or gain. This also makes the fool the best character to use as a personal spokesman. Shakespeare had used the historical context to bring out something different. He had shared some of his personal insight with the audience and readers through the fool character. And by having the fools play the same role of a mentor and point out other characters' actions, Shakespeare reveals that seemingly rational actions are not always so rational. So ironically, in Shakespeare's plays, the fool title does not in any way establish a foolish character. I have chosen Twelfth Night, a romantic comedy, and King Lear, a tragedy, because there is not much discrepancy that seems to distinguish the two fools, Feste from Twelfth Night and Lear's fool from King Lear. They both have the same goal of guiding other characters to gain self-awareness of their actions. They both use the same method of pointing out the absurdity or silliness in other characters' actions. Ultimately, they share words of wisdom not just to the other characters, but essentially to the audience and readers as well. An example in Twelfth Night that reveals this is in Act 1, Scene 5, line 356 to 364. No other character but the fool points out the ridiculousness of Olivia's promise to mourn her brother for 7 years. In fact, Orsino, who is in love with this countess, even praises and admires her love for her brother. Feste, the fool, states that Olivia's brother must be in hell, considering that she has to mourn him for 7 years, to which she replies that she believes her brother is in heaven. Feste then alludes to the pointlessness of grieving someone whom she believes is in heaven. Similarly, in King Lear, the fool also provides the same insight to Lear multiple times. Lear has decided to divide up his kingdom among his 3 daughters while intending to remain a king. Lear's faithful servants had tried to reason with him or discourage him from doing this, but he refused to listen. Lear even banishes his most faithful servant Kent when Kent tries to convince the king not to divide up his kingdom. In the end, it is only the fool who is constantly pointing out Lear's mistakes. So what is Shakespeare trying to convey through the words of the fools? Well, in Twelfth Night, through Feste, Shakespeare is pointing out that sometimes people act irrationally to the human condition of death. Olivia may think that it is rational to swear off men to mourn her brother. However, Feste shows her that it will not change the reality she is living in. Orsino will continue to pine after her, and she will find herself in love before she can fulfill her vow. And in King Lear, Shakespeare is highlighting that societal change and social status is out of people's hands. Lear had thought that his status was something he was born into, and thus an inseparable part of him. He was blind to the idea that dividing up his kingdom among his daughters was technically his voluntary abdication. Through Lear's fool, Shakespeare points out how irrational Lear was to expect his daughters to love and respect him as a king, when in fact without a kingdom, he was no longer a king. Comparable to Feste, Lear's fool guided Lear through the process of self-knowledge. Without a doubt, Shakespeare's views on patriarchy, love, gender, race, and other big ideologies in his plays are ambivalent and subject to different interpretations. However, I believe that his view on the reality of the human condition remains constant, and the Fools reveal this. The Fools show how people try or want to escape the reality they live in by acting irrationally. Thus, it is not the world or life that is irrational, but that the people sometimes act irrationally because they perceive the world through their own personal ideas, as Olivia or Leah did. Thank you for watching.